feel like if you aren't doing what you love and you are not seeing it through the eyes of a child and no longer enjoy it, why pursue it? Give everything, give all of you. And I think when you do, you find yourself investing not just in the creative, but in other people. And they become part of your journey, so to speak. You end up working with them 3, 4, 5 times. And relationships have been an extraordinary part of my journey, because you get to reward people and then say thank you in the form of putting them in something that you end up producing. And I think that could be, it comes with the understanding that you have a marathon mentality to begin with.
Which you absolutely do. And people, all they have to do is just Google your name and they see the extraordinary body of work and the amazing things that you've had an opportunity to be a part of, from film and television and continuing. And you're working on so many extraordinary projects. We're just showing a couple of quick little hits here from some of the projects, past and present, which I think is really, really cool stuff. And we'll talk about some of these as we go along. There you are with Matt Dillon, running for Grace. And it's extraordinary what you've done. What I love about it, too, is you can take on a role and you can really make it your own. You've had an opportunity to play different characters. You're not somebody who's necessarily pigeonholed, which I think is great, or stereotyped. And that's a great thing, right?
I think it is a blessing. It is for me. A lot of that has to do with kind of my DNA. You know, I am an immigrant. I grew up in a different country in South Africa, speaking several different languages. Over the years, I've lived in different countries, worked in different countries, and really, really just been fascinated with cultures, with getting to know different parts of cities I live in. And it has been interesting to be able to kind of disappear into something that's art house, come back into something more action, crime, or noir, which is probably my favorite genre, and then run off and be part of something that's a little more wholesome, or even has a theme of faith to it, and then jump back into video games. So I think for me, it's definitely been, again, a blessing. That being said, there's nothing wrong with being typecast, because it means people think you do something really well. They trust you in a certain genre or type of role. I have several friends in the industry who are repetitively in the same genre or same type of roles, and good for them, because it means the phone's always ringing, because that's something they're known for. And again, the audience trusts them, not just the industry. So yeah, no complaints on my end.
Absolutely not. You really are amazing. I want to let the audience know that Stelio has over 140 international credits. He's in his 4th decade in the industry, multilingual, as he mentioned, a prolific actor whose films have grossed over $400 million. Did I mention that I'm your long lost cousin, Stelio?
Yes, we spoke about it earlier, actually, and
Yes.
you said you have several siblings that are cousins as well. I forgot.
Yeah. Well, actually, my mother is the youngest of 16, so there is a big family on her side, so we could be cousins. I mentioned, and congratulations, you are a SAG Award nominee, also an American Movie Award winner, who's been really the popular choice, critically acclaimed. So many filmmakers want to work with you as well. You were, of course, on the series SWAT on CBS, and so much more. We're going to talk about each of the different things, but people know that, they watch it and enjoy it. Tell us about what it was like being on that series.
I spoke earlier about seeing life through the eyes of a child, and I literally felt like I had nostalgically stepped into back into my youth, because I got to play a bank robber who shoots guns and beats people up. And I'm nothing like that in real life. I mean, we hope not. So for me, I had a blast. I had a couple of days of training with a brilliant fight choreographer and stunt team. Got to work with Tori Vogel and Shamar, and that set are really like they're like family. They function like a well-oiled machine. I was very sad to hear that since the show was canceled the 3rd time, they are trying to have it come back for season 9, but we had a blast. And about, I'd say 10 pages into the script, I could tell immediately that it had been influenced by the film Heat, which I love. It's got a cult following. I'm friends with a lot of the cast. Diane Venora has been a mentor for a long time. And I knew it was something I was very excited to be part of. My character is probably most similar to the character De Niro, the Neil McCauley character that he played in Heat. He's a gangster that owes money to the Russian mob. And the best way for him to kind of redeem his debt is to rob banks. Of course, things go south because it is a procedural. But I had just a tremendous time working with Ramon Mosley, who's the director, and all of the cast. It was a great episode. Loved it, every minute of it.
Yeah, you really have had an opportunity to be a part of so many incredible shows and projects, my friend. Another one, too, that was really terrific. Between Borders, tell us about that.
Between Borders was, for me, a passion project. I'd worked with the director before, based on a true story of Armenians who love that poster, by the way. I love what they did with it.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, it's excellent, and it really represents the film well, because it is a character-driven drama, but it's based on the true story of Violetta and Ivan Petrosian, who were atheists growing up first in Azerbaijan, then in Russia. They were never made to feel like they were home. They were never given choices in their lives. And I had the opportunity and privilege and honor of actually meeting both of them prior on another film that I had done, because similar writers and producers were involved. And Mark Freiberger, who a long time ago had won, he won the best Super Bowl commercial, Doritos commercial, and had started doing second unit for Michael Bay, had worked on one of his Transformers films, had been a longtime friend. I was in a prior film of his called Jimmy, and he reached out with the script. We shot the film in Romania, got to work with Elizabeth Tabish. She's one of the leads on The Chosen, which I have a recurring guest on there. Mm-hmm. And seeing the impact and hearing the stories of so many Armenians that have been through what they have walked through, because Armenians are scattered throughout Europe. It's not just everybody assumes they live only in Armenia. They're scattered throughout Russia, many former Soviet territories. They're in Turkey, they are in Iran, and hearing their story and knowing their journey, you invest in something personally. It becomes for me, again, it was a passion project because I knew and had heard their story before, and it's been incredibly well received. We had a brief theatrical, and we are now streaming on Angel Studios, the studio that did The Sound of Freedom, and we're also available on Amazon Prime. And I believe we were just at EFM, Berlinale Film Market, because we're now heading out internationally as well.
It's so cool, my friend. And what an incredibly powerful performance and storyline, and so topical and so relevant too. You also had the opportunity to work with the wonderful, many people know her as a fabulous actress and a soap star. She was on Another World for many years, and of course in lots of films. Anne Heche, yes. What Remains. What was it like working with Anne and being a part of that project as well?
Anne was wonderful. It was a very rich experience. Anne is there's two sides to her. It's a side that's this child that is wounded and hurt and nervous to trust, and very ominous. You can't quite figure it out. And then there's this other side that is alive, energetic, ready to play, and so unpredictable. And that's what makes it's like catching lightning in a bottle. Working with Anne was a fantastic experience, brilliant. Very grateful to director Nathan Scoggins and producer Ralph Winter for having me be part of that. Obviously, very sad what happened. Spent quite a bit of time getting to know her and her story, and I was tickled. It was a treat. It was a treat getting to work with her. Just delighted to work with a great artist. And brilliant listener and highly intelligent as a storyteller. If you put 100 actors in a room, there would be nobody that would give the take she would take. She's one of those rare gems, like a John Hawkes, that are so interesting that sometimes you're in a scene with them and you catch yourself watching, but they make you better, because when you're doing your coverage, whatever they feed you is so honest and so raw that you have no choice but to respond truthfully. And very rich experience working with Anne. Very grateful for that time.
You know, it's very interesting. You had mentioned that about her having these sort of dual roles, because that's what she did on Another World, the soap opera. She was Vicky, who was more wilder and, you know, whatever happens, it happens. And Marley, which was much more of a reserved, conservative version. And she played the twin sisters. And sometimes, of course, they were talking to each other, which is amazing how that gets done and the magic of television and editing and all. But that's exactly how they cast her, is to play both roles, two sisters, one wilder, one more conservative, which is really something special. You mentioned something very special as well, which was The Chosen and episode 7, the prophet Moses. Being a part of something like that has to be extraordinary. Tell us about that.
I can't possibly find enough good things to say about The Chosen and the way that it happened and the way the role happened. I was originally supposed to play a different role on The Chosen, and it was their first season. They were shooting in Weatherford, Texas, and it kept raining, and the dates kept getting pushed to the point where part of the set had to be rebuilt. I was at the time contracted. It crossed over into my schedule for an action thriller I did called Infidel, which was released internationally by MGM, that we shot in Jordan with Jim Caviezel. And I called up Dallas Jenkins, the director, who I'd worked with several times already prior to The Chosen, and I said, I'm sorry, my reps can't work dates anymore because it's been delayed so much, and I'm no longer able to play this role. I was pretty devastated, honestly, because I knew what The Chosen was all about, and I am Christian. So for me, it really felt like a calling to be part of that show. And Dallas said, don't worry about it. We'll find you something else. We'll come back to you. And you don't know if that's ever going to happen or not. Now, I've been in the business long enough that I've had the privilege of working with maybe just 4 or 5 directors more than once over the course of, I don't know, somewhere over 100 directors that I worked with, and Dallas I'd already worked with twice. So when he says something, he means it. I'll fast forward to me being in Jordan, and I go and visit a lot of the historical, archaeological, biblical sites. We go to the Garden of Gethsemane. We go all over the Holy Land when we're in Jordan, filming on my days off before we went to go visit the Holy Land, Jerusalem, and also Bethlehem for Christmas. I go and visit Mount Nebo. I beg your pardon, Mount Nebo, along with Petra.
Just going there chokes you up, right?
Yeah, it happens. Excuse me. So Mount Nebo is where Moses is buried, and
Right.
It was very emotional for me because biblically he was able to take his people out of slavery, but he was not able to go into the Holy Land because he was disobedient. He struck a rock when he was told to do something else, but he was able to see the Holy Land, and that's where he passed. And that got me emotional because of his journey, also because physically from Mount Nebo, when you look out, Jim, into Israel, you see a very flourishing city. It's green, it's beautiful, it's thriving, it's the land of milk and honey. Jordan has a very different type of beauty. The part that I was on, specifically Mount Nebo, was, I would say, was akin to Mars. Stunning, red, thick, orange, beautiful rock, but harsh and very dusty. And God took them from that into the Holy Land, right? And we go and take photos outside of the museum where he's buried, where his tomb is. And there's the the snake and the pole, the biblical part where his people were called to look on something and believe in it, even though it didn't logically make sense. It was about the fact that God wanted to be trusted. So I have all this context. I'm very moved by it. About 3-4 months later, I'm back in the US. Dallas reaches out and he says, I'm sending you a script. I have something for you on The Chosen. Not telling you what it is. It's a very iconic role, and I'd really prefer that you did not say no. Like, you can't say no. I go, Dallas, what is it? I read it. It's Moses. And I'm reading it. And to me, it's, from one thing, I'm like, only God could do this. From another point of view, I'm going, okay, everybody knows Charlton as Moses. How do you play another role like that? I go, Dallas, the character needs to be several hundred years old. He goes, well, this is a middle-aged Moses. And I go, but I'd still be several hundred years old. So it was fascinating. And beyond that, to see the hope and the joy that The Chosen has brought people, to see the popularity that it's gained, to see during the pandemic when it really, really was able to take off on a whole other level, because countries whose television and programming is usually controlled by their governments exclusively could not control what people were able to download. And The Chosen actually premiered as an app, Jim. It was not on Netflix or Peacock or Amazon the way it is now. And we're hearing from people all over the world that were watching it locked down in China, in North Korea, in Iran, who were greatly encouraged by it. That's a photo of Jonathan and I. We had actually done a film called The Two Thieves, a Good Friday film that is currently showing on Great American Pureflix and Amazon Prime.
That's a great shot of you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, that's he and I on the set of The Chosen. He came to visit when I did my scene. We're very close friends. We did The Two Thieves in 2014, which was again produced and directed by Dallas Jenkins. That shot right there is me playing Damas, who's the penitent thief on the cross. And Jonathan played Jesus then. And there was just an incredible gravitas and personal connection he had to the role. And being part of The Chosen has been phenomenal. To see its success has been tremendous. I mean, they've got numbers that are bigger than Game of Thrones, and they just had their season 5 premiere on billboards in Times Square, photographed by Annie Leibovitz, one of the greatest living photographers there is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's translated into, so many languages. So yeah, I could talk about it forever, but I'll stop now.
Well, no, it's for you too. The spiritual connection is the faith-based idea of it runs very deep through you, through your mind, body, spirit, your soul, your DNA, right? You're very in touch with God and your faith, and it's a very important part of who you are, how you live, and the work that you do, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, I have a personal relationship with Christ. I am not a religious person. I do go to church on a weekly basis, and I'm part of a men's life group, but it is by choice. We come together and congregate and invest in each other's lives. So for me, being able to do The Chosen and, recently, one or two other projects, Between Borders has a theme of faith to it. It's been good to be able to step into that, because the overwhelming majority of my career has not been in that at all. And in fact, when I very first started out, it wasn't even a genre. Now it's become a genre of its own. But most of my stuff has really been in mostly thriller, crime, action, both on the television and the film side, with sprinkles and hints of projects in the sci-fi, the comedy world, westerns, etc. So being able to be part of them, ones that are solid, because the thing that irritated me about films that were in that, and I don't even like the label, but the faith-based label, I think were not well done at all. They were very melodramatic, overly preachy, and to me, not really films. But yeah, no, that does certainly it's something that is very personal to me. Yes.
Beautifully said, my friend. Well, you talk about, like I was saying, the scope and range of your body of work is exemplary, including Angry Neighbors. It's another fantastic one. Tell us about that.
Angry Neighbors was a fascinating experience for Many different reasons. Even just showing up the very first day, I had flown in 2 days early. We filmed it in Minnesota. There's a town there called Owatonna, which actually doubled for the Hamptons, believe it or not. Very similarly, I mean, if you're from the Hamptons and you watched it, and I have people who've seen the film, they believed it was truly filmed there.
I
But
saw it,
the
and
fast
coming from out east on Long Island myself, yeah, it does have that look.
It absolutely does. They doubled up for it very, very well. The location scouts killed it. I mean, they were right on the money, except for the mosquitoes, which come at you with AK-47s. They're wearing jackets and they're well loaded. It's kind of freaked me out a little bit. But I showed up on set 2 days, not on set. I showed up at base camp on which on location sometimes is not far from where the set is. I was there 2 days early to just get used to the time zone and also have a wardrobe fitting. And somebody tapped on my shoulder, Stelio Savante. And I turn around and it's Frank Langella. And he goes, "Young man, I'm so glad you're here. I love your work. I'm a fan. I've known your work for years." And you don't expect to hear that, not from someone like Frank. So it shocked me. And we talked a little bit about some of the projects he'd seen. He knew the film I had done with Matt Dillon that was out in Hawaii. He knew I was friends with James Russo. He asked me how James was doing. So it was a treat. Angry Neighbors was a film that it's just a lot of good memories from.
You mentioned Matt Dillon and
Yes.
working with Matt, and that was a great experience for you as well, running for Grace. Tell us about that.
Running for Grace, brilliant storyline, based on a combination of a couple of stories of immigrant workers in the coffee plantations in Hawaii right after the turn of the century. And these two sort of Caucasian or American doctors that come in, one played by Jim Caviezel. I've worked with Jim and been friends with Jim for years. And the other played by Matt Dillon. He and I have been very friendly since working together. And I had seen some of the director's earlier projects, especially To End All Wars. Thought he was a very, very interesting filmmaker. And I played the role of the Portuguese mayor who basically runs the local plantation, and made a lot of good friends on that set. Got to work with now the late John Sakata, whose father was Harold Sakata and played Odd Job in Goldfinger, the man with the bowler hat. And while working with John, we became very, very tight. He did not tell anyone that he was struggling with cancer. He passed before the film came out. And his cousins and aunts own a coffee plantation. So we go back and visit the plantation, buy their Kona coffee, 100% Kona coffee, not blend, and just wanted to support the family. And working with Matt was fascinating. He's got a very sort of interesting process, and he's a brilliant listener. We became tight during filming. At the time, he was shooting and producing in fact, directed it, a documentary about Afro-Cuban jazz. It was my first time being in Hawaii. My wife and daughter came to visit, went and checked out some of the 12-foot volcanic lava tubes while I was on set. And there was a very special day on set that comes to mind where some of the very elderly people in the village who they were some of the original Japanese and Thai plantation workers that literally worked as coffee pickers. They would pick the coffee beans, and they were still alive. And one of the local ladies brought them to visit our set, and they were so moved by how brilliant the set design was. They started crying on set. They got very emotional because it brought back memories of their childhood as 7 and 9-year-olds picking these coffee beans. But it was great, and it was filmed on the Big Island, which we go back and visit all the time. The Big Island is it's interesting because it's not as commercial or as popular as the others, but there's a lot of good that comes with that, which is there's less traffic. The places aren't as busy. You don't have to wait as long to get a table in a restaurant. And the two sides of the island are fascinating. Couldn't be more different. The Kona side from the Hilo side, and they've struggled with volcanoes over the years.
Hmm.
But, brilliant place to film, great memories, and a lot of great friends from that project.
Like I say, it's really extraordinary. All these different, not only the projects and the accolades, but the experiences that you are accumulating are really amazing. Just the breadth and scope, film and television intertwined, including working on Law and Order SVU. Tell us about that.
Law and Order SVU was, for me, was really the first domino in all of it, Jim. And I'm glad you brought Law and Order SVU up.
Key moment for you in your career, huh?
It became the first domino to me becoming where I am now, which is just a journeyman actor that is more established. I never stopped working, and I'm very grateful for it. Law and Order SVU at the time, I think it was season 5 or 6, because we're going back quite a while now. We filmed it in 2004. It came out in 2005, and while we were filming that, there were 2 illnesses that happened that greatly affected our shoot. It started being directed by Juan Jose Campanella, who is a genius director. He actually won an Academy Award for an Argentinian film called, I think the original translation was Se tus ojos. I think it was called like In Their Eyes. Then there was a remake done of it with Chiwetel Ejiofor. Brilliant director. And about a weekend, his mother got very ill, so he had to leave. Arthur Forney then took over directing the episode. He and I became very good friends, budding tennis player. But then Mariska's father, Mickey Hargitay, very famous, the late Mickey Hargitay, very famous bodybuilder at the time, got ill. So the episode, usually you'll be done in a week to 10 days. It was probably shot over the course of about 3 weeks because of all the changes that had to come in and be made. But to be part of the vehicle early on, to be part of that franchise, the Dick Wolf family, when I was finished filming, sent me a very gracious letter thanking me for my work on the show. The episode became their highest rated episode for ages because it was a very high profile cast. Bradley Cooper, Alfred Molina, the late Angela Lansbury. But I was ironically the guest lead on it. I played Milan Zergin, who was a Bosnian kind of fundamentalist. And almost immediately after that, I then got brought in and offered a role on what was at the time Law and Order Criminal Intent. And it got me to where the heads of primetime and network casting, you somehow float for a while and you end up being on these lists. Float in terms of being your name, you change from being struggling or people not knowing you, and casting directors know who you are when you come in the room, and they start looking for work for you and on your behalf. And Law and Order SVU was one that really, it was my primetime debut, and the role was great role.
Mm.
A lot of scenes, a lot of depth, a lot of gravitas and weight to the character, and actually helped me in something I played recently, because in having to play a Bosnian fundamentalist, I spent time in certain communities to get an understanding of why certain characters would respond in a certain way. And I just had to learn to speak. I didn't for that role, but I just recently wrapped a film called Stay Fort in Tbilisi, Israeli production team. It is an Israeli Hamas war drama based on the lives of 3 hostages who on October 7th, obviously we know what happened, but they were kidnapped and survived in the tunnels for 52 days, only to escape and then mistakenly be shot by the IDF. Now I'm 1/4 Ashkenazi. My mother is a Messianic Jew. So to me, there was personal, very strong connection to the script. The director, Doron Eran, brilliant man. His films have played Cannes Film Festival, probably done 50 to 75 projects. One of the top Israeli directors out there. And I don't say that lightly because their content is brilliant. We're only now on this side discovering Fauda and Stissel and the boys, but I mean, they've been doing great. They've been making great product for a very long time. They're very innovative. They're great storytellers. And the experience of preparing for the character, who's I can't talk too much about it other than to say he lives in a similar mentality than what Milan Zergin did in the Law and Order SVU episode, and being able to lean into that and being familiar with that world was extraordinary for me. The project will be coming out later this year. Selma Blair is in it. Judd Hirsch is in it. It took about 3 days to get there because it's literally right on the Russian border. And we shot in tunnels about 5 or 6 meters underground in Tbilisi. Georgian people were wonderful, brilliant hosts. And the subject matter is extraordinary. I mean, I will share that the mother, her name is Iris Haim. She's very famous in Israel because her son was one of the hostages that was mistakenly shot. She invited the entire unit and the sniper into her home, made tea for them, loved on them, forgave them, said, I forgive you. Please go finish the job. And I've never met such a strong woman or person in my life, the forgiveness and love she has in her heart. And I'm incredibly proud to be part of that project. It could have gone to anybody for the role that I'm playing in the film, which, will be revealed in the coming weeks. It was announced in Deadline. We can't talk about it too much, but
coming soon. Stay tuned on that, right? Exactly.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Congratulations. Something recent was Summer of Violence. Tell us about this one. Yeah.
Summer of Violence, I'm not actually in. I have a role as the announcer on the day of graduation from the university, but I'm a producer on Summer of Violence. My friend Nikki Michaud, brilliant actress that had been in a 9/11 play that I've produced over the years and brought to Los Angeles, wrote and directed it. It was partly biographical based on her experience of growing up and living in, I beg your pardon, Denver, Colorado during the Summer of Violence. It's very much a character-driven story, a prodigal daughter story, some brilliant young talent in it. Summer of Violence opened theatrically, and it is now a Tubi original and Tubi exclusive, and it is available on Tubi, which is an AVOD, advertising on demand. Nikki was kind enough to come to me in post-production and said, we could use some help, because over the years I have sort of dipped into content as a producer. If it's content that interests me, if it's content that I could bring some of my name actor friends into, who these days in film, it takes many more miracles than it used to for a film to get made. Pre-sales have changed. The list of names that could actually greenlight a film have become smaller and smaller. And if you're able to bring in the Caviezels or Dillons or whoever it is into a project, that helps. So over the years, a producer mentor friend said to me, he goes, it's extraordinary the amount of people you've worked with and that he goes, I noticed from all of the red carpet events and a lot of the festivals that you've played, because a lot of the films go to festivals, that I had a great passion for. I attended and visited many of the festivals early on in my career and have continued that, very faithfully over the years, because I love the medium of film. I think cinema is fascinating. Mm-hmm. He goes, if you have all those relationships with those studios, do you, the VPs and the acquisitions people? I go, actually, I do. He goes, I thought so, because you've been in titles by so many of them. You've probably been producing it without even realizing it. You've been producing. So I help take films through distribution and sometimes help them through a festival journey, because, again, I've been fortunate. A lot of the films that I've been in have won at a lot of the festivals that matter, or I've won awards there, or I'm an alumni there from being a judge. And I said, Nikki, I'd be happy to jump on. And Nikki's good people. She's got an incredibly brave and courageous voice as a filmmaker. The film played Austin. It played Heartland. It actually got nominated for a grand jury prize at Austin, which really has become the new Sundance. Sundance, there's hardly any true indies anymore. The list of films that come out of Sundance that go theatrical, I mean, you'll be lucky if it's 3 a year. And for that reason, they're partial to films with names in them, because it helps, fill seats. There's still a lot of great films coming out of Sundance, but Austin, I would say, is a lot more independent. And because of that, there are films that will still have a shot. She did not have any names in her cast. And, Summer of Violence is a project that I highly, highly recommend.
Congratulations on that, and
Thank you.
these incredible projects. Another one you actually got a chance to star alongside Uma Thurman in My Super Ex-Girlfriend. Tell her about that. It's cool. There was a 6th billing on that 20th Century Fox Productions.
Yes, it was. It humbled me because I thought I'd arrived after working on that for 3 months, making a lot of money. I thought, okay, I'm here. This is going to be easy. And I'd already struggled in theater for probably 15 years at that point, not making money, but just becoming a sponge. And I realized after it doesn't work that way. And I needed to step out of my own head and truly understand that while work begets work, projects don't guarantee success. But a lot of interesting things about My Super Ex-Girlfriend. We were filming in the lower west side and the lower east side. And one of the nights we're on the east side. This was back in the days of shooting with 35 millimeter film, which of course you'll be very familiar with. The cameras locked up. It was very cold, wind chill factor, icy cold winds, snow, black ice on the streets, hundreds of extras waiting, standing around. And Uma went and had a conversation with Ivan Reitman, Jason Reitman's father, the late Ivan Reitman, great director, who was the director of the film. And she said, the weather forecast for the next few weeks doesn't look great. Have you considered other options? Make a long story short, we moved it to the Brooklyn Navy Yard. We were one of the first films to shoot in there. They rebuilt the set, but that meant that we were off for several weeks. They held us contractually. We had a studio contract, so we were on that film. Like I said, it ended up being over 3 months. But one of the last nights before we moved to the studio, so my small trailer, which was a double banger, was next to Uman's, which took up almost an entire New York City block at the time. But mine was parked next to hers. And I get a knock on my door, my trailer door, and it's security. And they said, we're locking down set right now. You're not allowed to move. And it turns out, and people can Google this, it's in the media, there was a very notorious kind of psychologically challenged stalker that Uma had for years. And he had left a white box outside her trailer. And he had written something, I think, in red lipstick on her trailer. So almost every day after that day, her and Ethan Hawke, was father of her children, had to be brought to set by private security. I think that might even have been federal agents at one point because of how nuts it got. But it was interesting. Got to spend time and work with Eddie Izzard and Luke Wilson. I didn't have as many scenes with Uma, but she was very sweet, very charming, and a lot of good memories from that film. It was early on. It was one of the last projects I actually did in New York before moving out to the West Coast for the recurring role in Ugly Betty. And it was funny because you hear messages from people over the years, and social media wasn't big back then, but time to time you'll hear from folks out in like Japan or wherever it was, and you see My Super Ex-Girlfriend, but it's been translated into, like, I think my character was speaking Bosnian at one point, which I don't speak. I do speak a few languages, but not that. And it was one of those films that had because since then the DC comic book franchise and superhero films have become their own genre. That didn't really exist like that back then. Of course, we'd had Superman and we'd had some of the great films early on, but it was a superhero film that had female leads, both as protagonists and antagonists, that we hadn't really seen up until that point.
That's exactly right. And to hear that it's in so many different languages is amazing. You slipped in there something that a lot of people also know you're from too, the series on ABC that was so well received, Ugly Betty. What was it like working on that?
Ugly Betty was a very interesting experience. Was terrific. It was originally supposed to shoot in New York. We shot the pilot there, ended up moving to the West Coast to shoot, the season that I recurred on, season 1. Lucky again to work with a lot of great people. Salma Hayek was one of the main producers on the show. Jim Heyman and Annie Potts' husband, writer director, and one of the main showrunners, became tight with him. He does some very, very interesting photography, which people can see on Instagram. But yeah, it was a good experience. A lot of my scenes were with Alan Dale, who's a fellow Commonwealther. He is a Kiwi via Australia, which a lot of them do. They, like Russell Crowe, are New Zealanders that then become Australian. And he and I were both budding rugby fans, so we'd always be talking about or watching a lot of Sevens rugbies because the Springboks, South Africa is good. So yeah, great experience working on Ugly Betty down at Raleigh Studios. And then season 2, my character got written off. The entire showrunner team changed and the show moved back to New York City. But for that one season, it was, yeah, it never hurts to be on a show that's highly rated and well received. And again, for me, it was great because you find out that you're on certain network lists, and they'll bring you in for roles and try to find something for you. And I was always very grateful to casting back then. I'm trying to think because it's a long time ago, like 2006. We originally cast it. The pilot was then shot. I think it was Marcy Phillips maybe over at the network. So yeah.
Cool stuff. Really, truly is, my friend. And just slipping in a couple of other quick things too. The animated series Captain Fall on Netflix as well. And then Amazon and MGM's true story, Sarah's Oil. Tell us about
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Oh, what a great story. Diamond in the Rough. And I give Cyrus Naraste, who is a genius writer. The man's been produced by everybody from Oliver Stone to Chris Columbus and even Spielberg. He wrote one of the episodes for Into the West. I had worked with Cyrus before on a film that I mentioned earlier with you, Jim, called Infidel. Cyrus and Betsy wrote this incredible story based on the life of Sarah Rector, who, as far as I know, is this country's first Black teenage millionaire. She discovered oil under her land and basically was one of the main reasons the Oklahoma oil rush started. The government and kind of a couple of loose characters, dishonest characters, find out that they're opportunists. Obviously, they want to get in on the money. I got to spend, I think, maybe 2 months, maybe a little bit more than that in Tulsa last year. And Amazon, MGM, and Kingdom Story are behind it. It releases this year in December nationwide. Got to work with some great talent on that. I'd worked with Cyrus before. He understands the actor's process incredibly well. He's brilliant, not just because. So in this country, it's you have more directors for hire, but in other countries, it's a little bit more of a natural extension for directors to direct from their own pieces. Their money, they don't have a studio system behind them. So a lot of their financing comes from their governments in the form of like arts of ministry and culture. And Cyrus is a director who has not been a director for hire. He's really and truly done everything from adapt Anne Rice's novel, Interview with the Vampires, Anne Rice, the late Anne Rice, into a film called The Young Messiah. He had done The Stoning of Soraya M., one of the most brilliant films I've ever seen, based on the true story of a woman who's falsely accused of infidelity and is stoned to death. The great Shariel Dashlu, Persian actress, was in that with Jim Caviezel. He played the reporter in it. The film won at Toronto. It won a Peace Award at Berlinale, which is very difficult to achieve. And he understands the actor's process extraordinarily well. So I'd worked with him before and discussed the role with him. I play a character who, like a lot of the East Coast, moved to work in Oklahoma during the oil rush, and got to work with some incredible talent. Sonequa Martin Green, who folks will know from The Walking Dead and from Star Trek. We've become very close friends. Her and her husband, Kenrick, got to work with Zachary Levi and Garrett Dillahunt. And it was a treat to be able to shoot where all of this happened, which was Tulsa. We shot on the Hughes Ranch, which is where Killers of the Flower Moon was shot, the Scorsese film. Brilliantly kept ranch, which he left in his will and testament, that a certain amount of orphaned horses, stallions, have to be flown in or driven in and kept on the property. They have a rock quarry where they bury the dead horses after they pass. But being able to shoot in Tulsa was extraordinary, and on the outskirts of Tulsa where the story happened. And I was impressed with Tulsa. It's thriving. I mean, thriving from every level possible. Zach himself, Zachary Levi, wants to open a film studio there. Oklahoma has a great tax incentive, and they have a great versatility in terms of locations. Very excited for the film. Sarah's story needs to be known. She was a courageous young woman who not only during the civil rights era was up against giants, but really, to me, it's a David and Goliath story, the way she overcame and won all of that and was able to provide for people. She took care of people, and the Native American Indians who lived right in the area that happened actually play a key role in helping her achieve everything that she did. So I'm excited. The last few years, I've been blessed to where these true stories just find me. I get direct offers to my reps, and a lot of them are stories I either naturally gravitate to or characters that I've already heard about. And Sarah's Oil is definitely one of those. And I'm excited for the world to hear Sarah's story.
How do you separate yourself from the character? Now, sometimes you can take on a role that's so intense and so deep, and you're living it and breathing it constantly, day in and day out, and really absorbing it. I've asked this of others over the years. How do you, it is training, it's expertise, but how are you able to separate you from when it is a really intense character that sort of consumes you?
I think that's a process thing. I think for every actor, they have a different process, and telling you about my process probably wouldn't mean anything to you, and it would probably bore the audience. But what I will say that I think is key is you bring yourself to the character. That is what makes the character interesting. And being on the other side of things now as a producer, when we have actors read or when we hire casting directors, we want people that come, that tape, we want them to bring themselves, their informed life experiences, the way they have overcome tumultuous circumstances in their lives, the way they respond to pain, the way they gravitate towards. Take Anne Heche, for example. She lived an incredibly, incredibly difficult life. When you look at her childhood and what she went through, it's no mistake that she had an incredible instrument as a performer. This is a girl who was so afraid of her father. She would lock herself in the bathroom, and all she had to read was a hymn book from church. And that's why she gravitated towards a lot of us. And that's why she won't, Nathan, the director, sang Amazing Grace for her in a church. It's all on video. It's out there on Google. You could see it. She was moved by it, but she brought her informed experiences from her life. The more active a life you live, the more you're out there meeting people, the more you travel, the more you invest yourself presently in what you're doing, because no moment can ever be repeated again. So it doesn't matter whether you're fishing or hiking or having a conversation with someone or quiet time on the beach. Every scene, every moment you have, whether it's take 1 or take 50, it's the first and last time you're going to do it. And for me, it's not about separating myself from the character. It's about how I connect to him, what his needs are from the other characters in the scene. What is driving him? Is he driven by fear, greed, lust, anger? And what is his need from the other characters in the scene? What does he need to get from them? And what is his opinion of them? Because you, Jim, are not going to speak to me the same way you are your wife or your mother or your friend or an actor or somebody that you went to high school with or somebody you meet on the street. Well, it's the same way with characters on film. And we bring our own experiences to those characters. So it isn't about separation. Forgive me, itching. I've had to grow a beard for 3 months because of what I'm about to film. And it drives me nuts. It's hard to have to keep up with every single day. But yeah, I think it is very much about being able to, of course, you separate yourself, but that's a given. That's more someone on the outside looking in going, okay, you're nothing like this character. And I'm not referring to you, I'm referring to audience members, because that question will come up a lot.
Yeah.
How do I separate myself from Moses? I mean, I don't feel worthy or qualified to even play that role, but I know what was important to Moses was being faithful to his God. That's who he felt he was responsible to. And what that meant was that it manifested itself in the form of leading them out of the Holy Land, leading them out of leading them into the Holy Land, leading them out of slavery, getting them out of slavery, and being able to be accountable for providing for them while leaning on God. So those were the things that kind of drove him, and him having the ability to speak as kind of God's representative. People got very upset with him and his brother Aaron, so it was his responsibility to be able to behave in a manner that represented God faithfully. And I have to, as again, everybody has a different process, but for me, I spent time in the Bible. I spent time learning to understand what his challenges were, what drove him, how he felt about people, and ultimately what was his resolution. So it's not as much about separation as it is about bringing ourselves.
It really is. You're extraordinary, and I know you have to take off because you have somebody, a limo is idling in the parking lot. If
true.
only, right? If only. I know you're also proud of the UK South African co-production of Poachers Moon too, which is something.
Yes. May I have 30 seconds on Poachers Moon?
Oh, yeah, you can take forever. Yeah.
I beg your pardon. Thank you. You've been very generous.
Oh, my pleasure.
Tom Datnow is an absolutely brilliant man. Tom, autobiographical story about his father, who's a Holocaust survivor, who moves to South Africa and builds a game park, builds it in terms of not as much physically as it was about what was important to him, which was protecting wildlife, specifically the rhino. And that is the backdrop and backstory for Poachers Moon. It is a crime noir thriller, character-driven, based on Tom's experiences growing up on a farm in Kimberley, South Africa, which is where we filmed it. It is a co-British South African production that I shot very, very recently, and it's always good to be able to go back home and see my sisters and my mother, who live in Cape Town, which is a different city. But I cannot give him enough credit. He did all the extraordinary lifting. He wrote it, he directed it, he produced it, and also to MQ Mondise in South Africa, also tremendous producer who knows everybody that's anybody in South Africa when you need favors and need to get something done at a level. So I'm excited for that project, which hopefully will be coming out later this year as well.
It's exciting stuff. It really is. And, you're giving back too. You're a board member of the River Street Theater, Jeff Goldblum, John Voight, and others. You're also a judge for the Austin Art House Film Festival, which is fantastic. And you have executive produced, and driven over a dozen films in theatrical and streaming distribution as well. So not just the actor, but you're behind the scenes making it happen and getting it done as well. You enjoy that part of your career?
Honestly, no. Producing life is too short. It's something that occupies too much space in a person's brain, to where you want to be able to put people in positions that you trust and that they'll get it done. And it's tough to do that with creatives, because creatives are passionate. They're not necessarily the best business minds. And when you put a lot of creative people in a situation, they're all going to have different opinions. What I do enjoy about it, because
that's why bands break up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And many divorces, probably, I would assume. But no, the type of producing that I do is not, so I don't raise money. I don't put projects together from the get-go. I mostly, once I'm cast, if there's a role in there and I go, hey, my friend Gary Sinise, or, my friend, whoever might be right for this, have you considered them? And as I mentioned earlier, some of those names, obviously distributors would like, because it means they sell the project. And especially if it's a studio, they might already be a fan of that person. But I also take projects through distribution to where if they're struggling to map out, let's say, a festival journey with festivals that matter, while I cannot guarantee they will get in, I've been blessed to have a good track record with films that I've been a producer on that have done well at places like Austin and Raindance and Heartland and San Diego, which is now hosted by Variety. And I am friends with a lot of the VPs and acquisitions people that are at studios. And every film wants one thing, right, which is return on investment, but very few of them make it. And I'm in a position to
ROI.
Yes, that's it. That's the name of the game. You nailed it. ROI. Can they get an MG? What kind of what does the life of a film look like? 12 to 15 years, and you map out the windows from theatrical to streaming to AVOD and see what you could make happen for a film. I don't overly enjoy it. The best part about producing is when you're able to bring friends into projects that you enjoy working with, and people that you trust, that are great at what they do, but that also have your back and that are going to put out a great product. And I've often over the years brought a lot of South Africans into my projects, people like Neil Sandilands and Gideon Emery and David Lee. And you take, if you have just a teeny bit of success or just a teeny bit of leverage that you have, and you're able to bring other people with you who are good friends and have worked hard and are talented or are part of your inner circle, why wouldn't you want to bring your tribe with you,
That's exactly right. So many great things you've been a part of, so many great things you are a part of, and lots more to come. When you take a look at it all, my friend, what are some of those blessings and joys in your life that keep you going and keep you creating and, entertaining and engaging us and making us think and wonder and smile through all the work that you do and continue to do and have done over the years, which is incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. My greatest joy is in my faith and my family. I'm a father of an 18-year-old, very blessed to have a daughter. There's no greater joy I've never had a son, but having a daughter is a very special thing. My daughter, Ava Grace, very proud of her. She's a very talented volleyball player. She's going to play D2 volleyball. I've been married 33 years. Blessed to have a wife that puts up with me and is very understanding. I'm often away for long periods of time. And it was difficult early on. There was a lot of struggle in years of making no money in New York. Lower contract theaters pay next to nothing, not when you're living in Manhattan. And it's challenging, but it builds character. And if you are willing to learn and be a sponge and understand that it's a marathon, and by the grace of God, you discover that that's what you're sort of meant to be doing for a living, then what more could you want and ask for? I love the art of film. I think it's the greatest art form because it brings all of the other art forms together. A lot of people will say that theater is more of an actor's medium because editors and directors and cameramen, cinematographers have more control of your process in film. In theater, they don't. Theater was my first love. I became very bored with it because it's a lot of talking and it doesn't transport for me. It doesn't transport the way film does. Film forms part of a landscape. And I think what makes it, the greatest art form is that it combines all the other art forms together. It starts with writing. You then add in directing, acting, hair, makeup, music, sound, score, composition, projection. It's never ending. And then you all, in its purest form, get to watch it in a dark theater with hundreds of other people you've never met before and have a visceral reaction for the first time. And that is then seen in different languages throughout the world. It's streamed. It lives, or used to live, on DVD, and prior to that, VHS. But it's around forever. And you have a chance to make a statement with the kind of projects you want to be part of. So I'm very grateful to the film industry and the people who believed in me, casting directors. Again, I'm just a journeyman character actor. I'm not somebody that's famous that has to worry. I mean, of course, I get recognized from time to time, but I have very famous friends who are. And you mentioned the word curse early on. Some of these people can't even go shopping. They can't even sit in a restaurant. They always have to sit in a private space in the back. They're more confined. They're more contained. And they can't go to the beach. They can't go horse riding. They can't go to a tennis. It doesn't matter where they are. They're constantly bombarded. I experienced that. I mentioned earlier, Caviezel's a friend. It's impossible to hang out in public with the guy. Impossible.
Right. Yeah.
Barry Smith, same thing. You can't. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, it's funny because I've worked with Boris Kodjoe many times, and he's probably one of the most handsome men you'll ever see in your life. So there's just constant lines of just loads of people wanting to hang out with him and take photos with him. And I'm like, Boris, let's just make plans another time. Spend time with who you need to out on the street. Have your publicist do your thing. When it's time for us to hang out, we'll go play tennis or whatever. But
right. Which is a love of yours too, tennis.
Yes, tennis and seeing what's happened with pickleball is just incredible.
It's incredible all around here too on the East Coast. It's everywhere. It's almost taking over, which is really extraordinary. You've been doing tennis for a long time, and you played some football too, didn't you?
I did. You're well researched. I did. I came over to West Alabama as a tennis player, ended up being one of the kickers on the football team. Loved football as a child because in 1983 in South Africa, so we didn't get television until 78, Jim.
Right. You got a lot of BBC and things like that?
Yeah, exactly right. And it was, what was it called? Gillette World Sports Special. First thing they show was Monday Night Football. Darrell Green runs down Tony Dorsett, 78 yards. I'm like, Washington Redskins, I love the uniform. I move here in 91. They win the Super Bowl. A few years later, my wife surprises me and gets me a Darrell Green jersey signed by him. I contact his organization. And when you've worked a little bit as an actor and had a teeny bit of success, people respond. So he responds. We start having conversations. We've prayed on the phone a few times. He's in the Hall of Fame. I'm a massive Washington fan since then. And I love what new ownership has done. And gosh, Jaden Daniels is gifted. That Jaden Daniels has discernment and wisdom of a quarterback that's been in the league 15 years. I mean, I won't get ahead of myself because it's a rookie year. We got to see there's no sophomore slump. But yeah, no, I love football.
Monday Night Football, Don Meredith, Frank Gifford, Howard Cosell.
Yes, that's right.
Broadcast legends, and certainly up my alley.
They are. Al Michaels is one of the last
Al Michaels is one
Mohicans that's left standing. I mean, John Madden and Pat Summerall were the
Pat Summerall. I used to really admire him. Brent Musburger, remember Brent Musburger too? The NFL Today. Different. And Chris Schenkel and Jim McKay.
Jim McKay's he did other sports as well. He's brilliant.
He did the Olympics and Wild World Sports and so much more. Some just legends. Vin Scully. I mean, these are great people. And
they were. I met him briefly before he passed because my daughter went. Vin Scully. Yeah,
the Dodger game.
No, I wish it was at a Dodgers game. No, my daughter was in kindergarten and primary school, middle school with his grandchild, and he would come to events at the school.
How cool is that? Wow, Joe Garagiola and some of the greats.
A lot of the nuts. Jimmy the Greek.
The Greek, remember? Yes, that's right. I remember on CBS. Exactly. Yes. Cool stuff. And so you're in a sweet spot. You're enjoying the ride and things are good and you're excited and the juices are flowing. The creative juices are flowing for you, huh? Yes. Very grateful. Very grateful. You're on all the social, I'm sure. Is there a website or anywhere people can be pointed to? No, the website thing went out a few years ago. So I am, IMDb. I am on IG. I have a public page on Facebook. Yeah. I am on Twitter or X. I'm not as active on there. IG is the one I'm most active on. Yeah, I think we tagged you on that too. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for asking great questions. Thank you for doing all your research. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. You have great vocal cords. I don't know if you've been involved in voiceover because I've been a voiceover artist for years doing the Call of Duties and many other things, but a lot of radio. You have fantastic voice. Yeah. I've done a lot of radio too. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Radio and voice and narration and things of that nature. Sure. Well, I'll throw this out there. I appreciate your kind words. My father, you know how you're instilled by the parents, grandparents, or other family members early on when they have good things to say. when you're a kid. So I've said this audience who is faithful that watches our show all the time knows I've said before. But I've said this even before I started the Jim Master Show series. 7 years old, my father said to me, my father originally from New York City. Matter of fact, grandfather worked in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. You talked about that earlier. Really cool stuff. Father, Irish, English background. He said, Jimmy, I'm the fifth James, Jim. So Jimmy, always remember, whenever anybody, now I'm 7, he's telling me this sage advice. Whenever anybody says something kind or nice to you, always take the time to thank them for those kind words. Always, always do that. Then ask them to please put those words in writing and address it management. So cool, so true, right? Early on, and I have followed that path ever since. So,
yeah, what a great laugh and a great voice and a great you. Please don't take this as an insult, but you remind me of a very young Regis Philbin. There's an energy and an enthusiasm, and a similarity even in vocal tone.
Grew up in the New York area. Yeah, the passion. There is this, it's exactly a modern vibe, but it's an old school sort of sensibility. And that's what I wanted these conversations to be versus just interviews. I know when I watch things, I like a good conversation more than just question, answer. For the viewers, knowing here that Stelio had no idea what I was going to ask. Nothing was pre-prepared. This is all free-flowing conversation that we've had. When it was a great tennis match back and forth. I threw it out there, you took it back, and which was fantastic. But that's the way I like to do it, and I think it's much more real, authentic, conversational, and so it's part of if they saw you in the supermarket, saw me in the supermarket, they would get the same thing they're seeing here today, right?
Yeah, and thank you for your kind words. You're very gracious and generous, and congratulations on your show. I will definitely be plugging it. I've had a blast speaking with you. Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. Yeah, do spread the word. Come see us again, Stelio, and we will, as I always tell the guests, keep the porch light on for you. You're welcome back anytime, my friend. If you know other folks you think would like to pop on, this is how we do it. They can come on for as long and short as we want. We figured you and I a half hour. We might have gone a little past that, but it was
just a teeny bit.
We let it roll for as long as the guests can.
I beg your pardon. I would love that. I think I'd love to revisit with you when Sarah's Oil comes out, because there are so many. Until a film has been released, there's a lot you cannot reveal. Once a film has come out,
and you can,
there's so much more than you can, and
photos from behind the scenes, all kinds of stuff.
Yes, absolutely, and the film will be everywhere. So no, I would be delighted to do that. I will thank Wendy, because she said you have to speak with Jim Masters, and I said let's do it, and I'm so glad that I did. So thank you.
The pleasure is all mine, my friend. Let's definitely stay in touch, and continued blessing and success coming your way.
Thank you. Likewise.
We will chat again soon. Okay, Stelio?
Thank you, Jim. Have a good one. Appreciate you.
Mr. Savante here on the show. I love it. You be well. You take care. We'll talk soon.
You too. Take care.
Right. Bye. Cheers. What a great conversation with a great guy who knows what he's doing and loves what he's doing, and really is passionate about it too. I hope you guys enjoyed this. He's all over your televisions and your, film library. He's done it for 4 decades. Isn't that amazing? You're talking 40 years he's been in the business, and he's in Hollywood, Los Angeles. For 15 years, he was in the theater world in New York, born in South Africa, and just an incredible talent. His range is extraordinary. You've seen him on some of your favorite TV shows, SWAT and Law and Order and Ugly Betty. He mentioned that as well. He's worked with a lot of other greats. There he is with Matt Dillon. This was Running for Grace. He talked about working with Anne Heche, of course, the brilliant actress too, and even working behind the scenes on Summer of Violence and working on Angry Neighbors, and just so many incredible. And of course, the role on The Chosen as the prophet Moses, that was an extraordinary role that he was very, very proud of. And Just really, really cool stuff. A great guy, new friend made. You know, we make friends with all these great guests. If I know them in advance, they're already friends. They pop on the show. But if this is the first time we're actually conversing and it happens to be on this show, then we all become friends and usually chat off the air as well, which is great. So we thank Stelio Savante for gracing us with his presence here, a SAG Award nominated, multi-award winning television and film actor, producer, and director. He does it all. Really cool conversation with him. We love having you here. Don't forget to give this episode a thumbs up like on our YouTube channel. There's a like icon there. A thumbs up. Click the thumbs up. We would love that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. It's what you're watching right now. Leave a comment in the comment section. Drop a comment below. We really appreciate that. Interact with us and share the episode on your social media. You can share it right from our YouTube channel, right on your social media. Thanks for all the great chat as well in the chat section. Appreciate that. Do leave a comment, interact with us. Let us know maybe who you'd like to see on the show. There's some folks in the worlds of Hollywood or Broadway, television, film, stage, music. We do it all. Sports, comedy, life in general. We have guests that come in from every background, just like a traditional celebrity talk show series would. I appreciate his kind words about the show and my body of work. It was very kind of him to express that on the show as well. We love you all. Come see us again. We'll keep the porch light on for you as well. I'm your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time till next time. And also, don't forget, as we always say, to take care of one another. Don't forget to love one another. And don't forget to do the very same for yourself. You can find us in all the social media, Instagram, as well as, or IG, Facebook and X at Jim Masters TV. If this was your first time watching our show, we welcome you. And if you like what you've been watching, come see us again here on the Jim Masters Show. Be well, everybody. Take care. Stay together. Stay strong. Love one another. And I'll be right here waiting for you on JMS, the Jim Masters Show. Be well. We'll see you again soon. And cheers.